Welcome to another preview. This is where I'm going to be talking about the best captains of the week. I'll highlight the top 5 in order. Then I'm going to be looking at the best differentials, including some captaincy options, and then some of the main topics, injury news, and then answering a few of your questions. So let's get straight into the video. So let's get straight into the captaincy, and in number 5 we've got João Cancelo. I've been talking about him quite a lot recently, especially after his performance against Man United, and so long as he stays nailed in that City team, he is by far their best option, not just in the defence, but also overall. His expected goals is actually quite healthy for a defender, and he hasn't scored yet, so I think a goal is due. That doesn't mean he's definitely going to score against Everton, but that's not really the worst fixture in the world, to be honest. His expected assist is pretty decent, although you have to say he is overperforming that stat, but I'm not too surprised, to be honest, with the quality that City have at their disposal. He's had 2 big chances himself, and he has created 2 big chances with 10 key passes. So João Cancelo, for me, he can get the clean sheet against Everton, he can get a goal or an assist, maybe even both, and some bonus points. Obviously, it's a bit of a risky captaincy, and you may feel you want to go over midfielder or attacker, but if there's any defender you want to captain this week, it has to be João Cancelo. Now we're looking at his teammate Phil Foden. He has a decent record against Everton, and to be honest, if you want someone who has an even better record, then I'll be talking about him very soon. But Phil Foden, for me, is City's best attacker FPL-wise, and his stats are pretty decent, nothing spectacular, but we have to bear in mind he's only played 7 games, 3 big chances created, he's had 4 big chances himself, and Foden right now is integral to City, playing on the left wing or as a false 9. City like to kind of chop and change that and leave their opponents just bewildered and just wondering what Pep's going to do next. But Phil Foden, for me, is the City attacker of choice against Everton, but to be honest, you can go for maybe another option or two, but for me, Phil Foden is the best one, and Everton aren't really the best defensively, especially in recent weeks. You'd expect City to put 2 or 3 past them, and Foden should be a big part of that. Let me know in the comment section down below whether you want me to actually include Salah in these captaincy segments, because we all know how good he is, but maybe there is kind of a benefit to bringing him into these discussions so we can kind of rank him up against some of the other best options this week. So maybe right now, the fact that he's 3rd, that kind of shows you can go away from him. You don't have to put the armband on him. But of course, statistically the best, FPL-wise, with the points, of course, he's getting the most by some distance. And in terms of goal contributions, he's almost got double 2nd place in Mikel Antonio, and then you have Jimmy Vardy in 3rd with 8 goal contributions. So he's in his own level at the moment this season, 18 goal contributions. So obviously he's on another level this season, and yeah, just I can see why a lot of people are a bit fed up with Salah at the moment, because it kind of disregards the captaincy and it makes it a bit redundant. But still, in a way, other people who don't really like the captaincy too much, they like the fact that everyone just captains the same one, and then you bring kind of more skill into the game. But he is facing Arsenal, who have improved a lot recently. Still, Salah has a great record against the Gunners, especially at home, and I would suspect Liverpool can score 2 to 3 goals despite Arsenal's red-hot form recently. And Salah, of course, he's always a good captaincy option. He has kind of not been in the greatest form recently, but he's still gotten assists in the last few games against Brighton and West Ham respectively. Of course, he played very well against Atletico Madrid in the away tie, and even at home, he was pretty dangerous, and Liverpool won quite comfortably. So still a great captaincy option, and I wouldn't be going for Jota or anyone else from Liverpool, including Sadio Mane, but Salah for me is the pick of the bunch, and if you want to captain someone from that game, it's definitely him. Now in 2nd place, I've got Heung-min Son and Harry Kane as a duo. Go with either one of them. It's very evenly matched. If I had to pick one, despite Son having a much better season and better stats across the board, I would actually go with Harry Kane, and it's not because he scored 7 goals during the international break against relatively weak opposition, but it's actually because of Leeds United. They've considered the most chances in central areas of any team, and obviously that bodes well for Kane, who's actually getting into better positions not only for England but also for Conte. He's kind of sticking more inside the box rather than dropping deep as he was under Nuno and even Jose Mourinho to a certain extent. But Harry Kane, of course, is a really good option. Same with Son. Take your pick there. There's no right or wrong. I would just about go with Kane because of that, and to be honest, both of them are off form, especially in recent weeks, but over the course of the season you have to back Heung-min Son over the Englishman. But still, both quality players. You'd expect them to just kickstart their form in the coming weeks with those very good fixtures, and Leeds is a very good opportunity for them, and they're still kind of depleted in terms of injuries, Leeds United. So go with either one of them and you'll be fine. But I'd just about go with Kane if you had to pick one. And in first place, we've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who has been a bit disappointing recently, but he's still been doing very well across all competitions for Manchester United. He is facing Watford. I would argue that is a better fixture than Leeds United at home, Arsenal at home, and Everton at home. But of course, if you compare all of the teams, you'd have to say Man United and Spurs have been the worst of the kind of teams featuring in this captaincy list this week. But still, Ronaldo's Ronaldo. He's got decent stats and he's still getting a lot of shots away. And in all competitions, he's been doing very well. It's just in the Premier League where United and Ronaldo have been struggling recently. His last goal, of course, came against Spurs, but against top quality opposition in Liverpool and Manchester City, he has been struggling, and so have United as a whole unit. But still, I think this is a great opportunity for the Red Devils to score 2 to 3 goals, maybe even more. And of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he is the kind of main talking point with United these days, but Ronaldo could save his job once again, although some reports would kind of conflict that. But still, decent stats, very good fixture. If I had Ronaldo myself, I'd be very tempted to put the armband on him over the likes of Salah and even Kane and Son, who have got that very good fixture also. So for me, Ronaldo is number 1 this week in terms of the captaincy. Let me know what your top 5 captains are down in the comment section below, and don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. So we're now going to be looking at the best differentials. This is going to be kind of a new section in these previews, which was highly requested, including by Joseph Inginia. So thank you very much for your feedback. And you asked for the best differential captaincy options, and that's what I'm going to be doing. And of course, that can stretch also to best differentials. You don't have to put the armband on them. But this week, I think Adam Armstrong facing Norwich, I know they've got Dean Smith and they could improve even defensively, but Armstrong is in very good form. At the moment, you have to say, over the last 2 game weeks at least, he has been the best budget forward. Do I think that's going to be something in the long term? Probably not, looking at the fixtures, but Norwich City is the best fixture you can have, really. I know it's away from home, but still a very good fixture nonetheless for the Saints, and he's got decent underlying numbers. His goal against Aston Villa was spectacular, and you could even captain him. I wouldn't go so far. I don't think he's worth captaining, but still a very good differential to have. And if you have him, of course, don't get rid of him at this moment in time. But of course, the fixtures do turn very soon. But looking at Game Week 12 specifically, Armstrong is one of the best options this week, especially up front. Another very good option up front is Callum Wilson, and I've been talking about him a lot in my best wildcard team video and other videos that I've made recently. But Callum Wilson, decent underlying numbers, not the best, but only 7 appearances, and now playing under Eddie Howe, this could be the spark that Newcastle and Callum Wilson need. He's been doing very well, even under Steve Bruce, where Newcastle was struggling, especially up front. And they're going to create even more chances, I believe, especially through the wings. And Callum Wilson will have more service to feed off. I think his underlying numbers will get even better. He's going to have more shots. He's going to have a higher XG. And even his expected assists, I think, will actually shoot up. And it'll become a focal point that not only just relies on scoring goals and having service presented to him, but also he's going to be creating some chances himself and linking up with, say, Maximan and the other wingers like Almiron. So I think Callum Wilson will become even better of an asset. You could even captain him this week, but still, even if you don't do that, one of the best differential options you can go for this week, despite facing Brentford, who have decent underlying numbers themselves. Now, another really good differential option this week is Jarrod Bowen, and I know the fixture isn't the best, and that is reflected in the FDR, but his form since Game Week 5 is exceptional. He's only blanked once in that time. He's the only player bar Salah to have higher than 1.5 XG and XA since Game Week 8. So, of course, he's in absolutely amazing form, and I know Mikel Antonio would be my kind of preference longer term. I think he's more reliable, but looking at Game Week 12 specifically against Wolves, Antonio has never scored against them in 10 appearances, with 5 of them being in the Premier League, and Jarrod Bowen has actually scored against them before. And considering the fact that West Ham actually scored 7 goals past Wolves last season, the fact Antonio didn't actually score any single one of them, it kind of rings a bell in our heads, because that's what's been happening recently. West Ham have been scoring a lot of goals and Antonio hasn't been involved. But Jarrod Bowen would be my pick of the bunch in terms of the West Ham attack. So you don't actually have to go with Antonio like I showed in my best free hit video, and you can go with Jarrod Bowen instead. Now, Bruno Fernandes isn't the biggest differential. His ownership is still quite significant, but nowhere near as high as it has been in recent weeks. And the differential here would be, if you have him, you could actually captain the Portuguese international Arsenal. Now, that would be a bit difficult when you have Salah or Heung-min Son, Ronaldo, Harry Kane, etc. But if you have Bruno Fernandes and Salah and you look at the fixture, then you would have to put a case forward for Bruno Fernandes. And his stats are still decent, but what I would say with him is that the goals have just dried up significantly. And obviously he scored a hat-trick in Game Week 1 against Leeds United, but ever since Ronaldo's come into the team, Bruno's actually been creating more chances and his assist numbers have been very impressive, especially in the Champions League, but the goals have dried up pretty much, and United haven't been getting too many penalties. Let's wait and see who is on them. But of course, if Bruno still has those duties, then of course he's still an appealing asset, especially in fixtures like this against Watford. So if you don't go for Ronaldo, if you don't have him, Bruno Fernandes is very good cover and he could be a very nice differential captain this week. And finally, I would argue that Gabriel Jesus is the best differential you can go for this week, and you can even captain him. Now, his stats aren't that great. He's vastly overperforming his assists. He's got 5 and his XA is only 2.17. He has had 3 big chances and created 2 himself with 17 key passes, which is very impressive for a striker. 7 goal contributions in 10 games. Obviously, very impressive stuff. But what's even more impressive is his record against Everton. It's his favourite opponent, the Toffees. 8 goals and 1 assist against the Evertonians. Very healthy return. So I think Gabriel Jesus could be a great option this week. Of course, he did play against Argentina, coming on for a few minutes in the World Cup qualifiers on Tuesday, but he has more than enough time to recover. And Pep Guardiola, if he does start Jesus, even on the right wing over Mahrez, I still think he could be a very good option there, and he can get some goal contributions and rack up those goal numbers, which he's slightly been underperforming there, but I think he can get a goal or 2 here against the Toffees, and he's a very good option this week. And if you have him, you could even arguably captain him. So in this section, I'm going to be highlighting Diego Jota in particular and talking about the other injury news and how it affects not only Jota but also the FPL stratosphere. So if we actually just kind of look at what's been happening recently since I last uploaded my last video. So Son, Mane, Livramento and Broca are all confirmed fit. And then we have Firmino. So the other day it was reported that he could be out until mid-December, but Klopp recently in his press conference actually kind of played that down and made it seem like he could actually be back sooner than anticipated. So maybe in the coming weeks. So Diego Jota isn't going to be as appealing of an option now with that news. He's still going to be a good option, especially when Firmino is out, but he's not going to be, it looks like anyway, he's not going to be on the sidelines up until mid-December as first reported. And then we have Andrew Robertson, and because he got injured for Scotland, some people were thinking that Tsimikas could get a run in the team, and unfortunately, once again with Klopp, he did confirm that he has a chance of featuring this weekend. So even if Tsimikas does play against Arsenal, he could lose a spot once again in Game Week 13 against Southampton. So obviously not great news there with Jota and Tsimikas. So right now, a double up in Liverpool isn't looking too bad with Trent and Salah. But to be honest, Tsimikas is a bit unfortunate. I think he does deserve more games in the Premier League. He's been very impressive this season, and some Liverpool fans would argue this campaign he's actually been superior to Robertson. But of course, he's got that credit in the bank, and he is a quality fullback himself. But with Jota, I've kind of already made my feelings clear about him. He's a very good option when Firmino is out, but then they're going to kind of be sharing minutes. And the fact that Firmino could be back relatively soon, of course, that's not officially confirmed, but that's what Klopp kind of insinuated in his press conference. I probably wouldn't be in a rush to get him in, and I probably wouldn't be taking hits, and I'd rather go for a Heung-min Son or a Phil Foden, who around a kind of similar price bracket, I think they offer better value. They've got better fixtures, you could argue, especially over the long term, and I think they're just better assets overall. So with Jota, still a good option, you can go for him, but I would rather go for Foden or for Heung-min Son. So now looking at the Q&A section, Abel Stephen asks, should we be looking to start Livramento, or is it okay to bench him this week against Norwich? Play Rafinha or Gallagher instead? Now, I would be very hesitant about benching Livramento, and that's why I've currently got him in my starting lineup, and Rafinha and Gallagher are also very good options. But looking at the fixture, it has to be between Livramento and Gallagher for me. Then you add form into the mix. Gallagher is in red hot form. I would say that the fixture is better for Livramento, but then again, you could look at it on the other side of the spectrum, and he is facing Norwich, who have a new manager who could get a reaction out of them. So it's a difficult one. I wouldn't want to bench any of them, to be honest, but if I had to pick, I would start Gallagher over Livramento, but if you can find a way to start both of them, that is fine. And even Rafinha facing Spurs, I would not be comfortable with benching him as well, and currently he is on my bench, but I would go for Gallagher in your situation. So Uri Raps asks about a chat about formations, and Ninja Galati asks, should you go big at the back and in midfield while keeping only one mid-price or premium striker like Antonio Jimenez Jesus? So kind of both of those questions merge into one, and I've got the 5 premium forwards on screen pretty much. You could argue that Vardy and Aubameyang are kind of on the border of being a premium striker, but if we actually break them down specifically, Aubameyang, he has been decent this season, and I'd say there are some very good performances in there, but if he had scored those penalties against Aston Villa and Watford, he would have got an even bigger haul and more people would be considering him. But still, I probably still wouldn't think about him at all. The only premium strikers I'd be focusing on are the other 4, Ronaldo, Kane, Vardy and Lukaku. Now, looking at Jamie Vardy, Yuri Tielemans is out for 4 to 5 weeks, it looks like. So he's going to be out for a lengthy period of time. And he's been one of Leicester's best players. He threads in some very good passes for Jamie Vardy. And that's a big source of creativity and quality in the Foxes side, just being completely removed from the equation. So Jamie Vardy, who has been in pretty poor form recently, if we're being honest, since we got him in, he's going to be even worse of an asset from now on. But of course, those fixtures are looking really good, and I still think he's a good option. Then you have Harry Kane, who's been in awful form all season, but he's now got the fixtures and the manager to do very well. Then of course, Cristiano Ronaldo from Gameweek 15 onwards, a very good fixture run, you could argue up until February. So that's a good 2 to 3 months worth of good fixtures for Manchester United. But then you could look out on the other hand, and will Ronaldo play every single game when during the Christmas period especially, we have games every 2 to 3 days. You probably would think he's going to be benched in some of them, especially with other competitions coming into the mix in January and February. But still, all very good options. Then of course Lukaku, it looks like him and Werner are now back into the mix and they're training. So of course, he's another one we can keep an eye on. But of course, before his injury, he was looking pretty poor as well. Even in the Champions League, he wasn't really scoring too many goals, despite the fact that Chelsea just kept on winning games and doing very well and scoring from different avenues. But still, for me, Vardy, Lukaku, Kane and Ronaldo are all very good premium strikers. You can alternate between them, and I would want to have space for one medium or premium striker, to be honest, at least. So I do like going big at the back and in midfield, but I would still try to go for one expensive striker, and if not, 2 medium price strikers like Antonio, and maybe you could say a Raul Jimenez or Calvert-Lewin when he comes back into the mix, and also Patrick Bamford. So that would be kind of my take on it. I like going big at the back and in midfield, but I don't think you should only have one kind of expensive or medium price forward. In regards to the formations question, I always say the same thing. It's about the players you have and not looking for a certain formation. But this season, of course, it looks like having 4 at the back is looking like a viable alternative. Going 4-4-2, maybe 4-3-3, and sometimes even 4-5-1 is looking very, very good this season. I don't think 3 strikers is looking particularly great at this moment in time, but that could easily change for the reasons I already kind of explained. Calvert-Lewin, Bamford returning from injury, Lukaku now coming back into the mix, Jamie Vardy having some very good fixtures soon, Harry Kane as well, Ronaldo, etc. But still, I still think 3 at the back is good. You can go 3-5-2 as well. 3-4-3 is obviously the kind of most popular formation historically. I think any of those formations are good. I still wouldn't be going overboard and having 5 expensive or medium priced defenders. I still would have 1 or 2 budget options in there, like a Livramento, but still, I think any of those formations are fine, but ultimately it's about the players you have and not the formation per se. The final question is sent in by Mway, so thank you very much to everyone who sent in their questions and comments and topics for today's video. Very much appreciated. He asks, Son has been so effective historically. What do you think about his prospects this season under Conte, short, medium and long term? If you think it's prudent as well to upturn in form, which placeholder or player should I consider instead? So kind of breaking this question bit by bit. I think in the short term, it might take a little while for him to get back up to speed. Same with Spurs, especially offensively. But I think the fixtures are there now for Son and Kane to do very well. And as for medium to long term, looking at the fixtures, I think they're very impressive. And I could see Conte doing something similar to what he did with Hazard when he was at Chelsea. And I think Son can benefit from that greatly. He can sometimes play as a striker alongside Harry Kane rather than having him on the left and then drifting back into the centre. But he's going to be effective from both positions. And I think in terms of the midfield, Son is still one of the most reliable options out there. And he was doing very well even under Nuno Espirito Santo up until the very end when it kind of all went stale for everyone involved. But for me, Son is a very good option, short, medium and long term, because of those fixtures. And looking at Conte and how good of a manager he is, I think Harry Kane will get back into form slowly but surely, and I think that will only benefit Son, who's going to get even more assists and have even more chances provided to him by Harry Kane. I think the main problem with Spurs is the creativity from the midfield, so if they can unlock an Ndombele or a Lo Celso, I think that will only benefit them even further, especially those up front like Son. And I know Kane has been very poor this season, but Son has still been relatively decent on the whole. And in terms of a placeholder or alternatives, I think if you don't want to go to Son or you don't have enough money, I think Phil Foden is the best alternative. I know there's Diogo Jota as well, who's going to be a good option so long as Firmino is out. But for me, Foden has the fixtures long term. He's relatively nailed on the left wing and as that false nine. And he's such a good player at the moment. I know he's been blanking recently, but he's been doing so well. The underlying numbers show it. And the eye test, everything pretty much points towards Foden being one of the best midfielders you can go for. So if you don't want to go for Son, I would definitely go for Phil Foden for sure. And Son could actually be a nice placeholder for Bruno Fernandes around game week 16 or 15. And if you have Bruno Fernandes right now, you can easily switch him to Son for a few weeks at least. But still very good options across the board. And I think Son is one of the best options historically in FPL. And this season he will start to prove his worth from now on with these really good fixtures. So that concludes this week's preview. I've talked about the best captaincy options, the top 5 in order. Then I've looked at the best differentials, which you could also captain. I answered people's questions that were sent in. So thank you very much to everyone who sent them in once again. And I also talked about the latest injury news, in particular those that kind of affect the best and most popular assets like Jamie Vardy, Diogo Jota, Andrew Robertson, Tsimikas, etc. So thank you very much to everyone for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. It really helps out the channel, so I'd very much appreciate it as always. And good luck in game week 12 and good luck with the rest of the season, of course. Hopefully the football is good. We've got a lot of games on the Saturday. I think we've got 6 3 p.m. kickoffs on the Saturday, only 2 games on the Sunday, which is quite crazy to be honest. But thank you very much. Enjoy the football, enjoy FPL, and I'll see you next time.